In this video, I will show you a feature-based machining mill toolpath. FBM Mill is a powerful feature-based machining strategy available with Mastercam Mill. With a single operation, Mastercam analyzes a solid part, detects all machining features in a specified plane, and automatically generates all of the 2D milling toolpaths necessary to completely machine the selected features. Select Toolpaths, FBM Mill. Enable automatic initial feature detection and use tools in MCX. Also, disable the following option, Create as Needed. The rest of your parameters should appear as shown. I will now take a brief moment to explain a few of these features. Automatic initial hole feature detection is where Mastercam automatically detects features when you choose the FBM operation. If you save the settings to your toolpath, defaults file, and use that file in the active machine group, Mastercam automatically detects features every time you choose the FBM operation. Recognize tapered features allows wall and boss features with consistent tapers to be machined. Tool selection tells Mastercam where to locate tools for the FBM generated toolpaths. Preferred tooling searches the preferred tool list defined in the facing tools, roughing tools, rest mill tools, and finished tools pages to find an appropriate tool for the operation. Mastercam searches the preferred tool list from the largest to the smallest tool and steps at the first tool small enough to machine the feature. Use tools in MCX looks in the current Mastercam file for an appropriate tool. Use tool library searches the selected tool library for the necessary tools. Create as needed creates the necessary tools using the tool creation parameters you define. Search plane detects only features that can be machined in the selected plane. Group by controls the organization of FBM Mill generated toolpaths. Feature and zone Mastercam creates a separate subgroup in the toolpath manager for each zone. And finally, minimize tool changes is where Mastercam sorts the toolpaths into subgroups. Once your parameters have been adjusted, select the feature detection. Change the through features to additional breakthrough and add 0.1 as shown. I will now take a brief moment to explain a few of these features. Through features, select to allow FBM Mill to detect and include pockets that extend through the whole model. Stock to leave sets the amount of material to leave at the bottom of the stock. Additional breakthrough sets the depth of the cut beyond the bottom of the part. Edge curves is where Mastercam creates the edge curve geometry that is required by the FBM generated toolpaths to machine detected features. Recognize holes greater than this diameter as features eliminates from detection any through holes that are not through the pockets. All holes which are equal to or smaller than the entered diameter will be excluded from detection. Mill round feature with this cycle chooses one of the following strategies for machining the round hole features that FBM Mill detects in your solid model. And finally, pocket generates pocketing toolpaths for round hole features, allowing you to output separate rough, rest, and finish toolpaths. You can now select the Facing Tools page. This is where you set up the tools for a facing operation. You will not be setting up a facing toolpath for this part. I will explain a few of these parameters. Preferred tool list is where Mastercam searches your preferred tools list for the largest to smallest tool to find an appropriate tool for each FBM generated toolpath. Automatic tool selection applies only when tool selection options use tool library or create as needed are selected in the setup page. Maximum diameter enters the maximum tool diameter for automatic tool library selection or tool creation. Minimum diameter enters the minimum tool diameter for automatic tool library selection or tool creation. Tool size increments based on maximum diameter defines the size gap between tools that Mastercam uses to find or create the next available tool size. And finally, allow use of selects the tool type Mastercam should choose or create for the operation type. You can now select the Roughing Tools page. This is where you set up the tools for a roughing operation. Make the following changes as shown. Your parameters should now appear as shown. Next, select the Rest Mill Tools page. This is where you set up the tools for a remachining operation. Make the following changes as shown. Once the parameters have been adjusted, select Finish Tools. This is where you set up the tools for the finish operations. Again, make the following changes as shown. I will now explain a few of the parameters found on this page. Internal XY fillets is where you choose a strategy for selecting or creating tools to machine internal fillets in the XY axis. This strategy applies only when the minimum tool diameter is less than or equal to the fillet. Match tool with arc is selecting or creating the tool. Mastercam uses the fillet size plus the stock to leave value you define in the floor finish and wall finish cut parameters. Match tool with arc is where selecting or creating the tool, Mastercam uses the fillet size plus the stock to leave value you define in the floor finish and wall finish cut parameters. Use Next Smaller tool selects a tool that is the next size smaller based on your automatic tool selection settings. If Mastercam must create the tool, it creates a tool the next small standard size for the tool type. And finally, percentage of arc size selects or creates a tool no larger than the percentage of the arc you specify. Once your parameters have been adjusted, select the facing page. We do not need to face the part. That being said, make sure that the facing is disabled. Next, select the roughing page. This page allows you to add roughing toolpaths to the FBM Mill operations and to define their cutting passes. Mastercam will create the roughing toolpaths before any rest mill or finish toolpaths. Change the XY step over and depth cuts to percentage of diameter. Now make the following changes as shown. I will now explain a few of these parameters. Cutting method allows you to set the direction which the tool travels in. XY step over sets the spacing between passes in the X and Y axis for the FBM generated toolpath type. Use defaults uses the XY step over defaults defined for the FBM generated toolpath type either from toolpath.defaults file or from defaults in the tool definition. Percentage of diameter calculates the XY step over as a percentage of the tool diameter. Percentage long tool reduces the stress on long tools by using a separate depth cuts or an XY step over calculation for them. Long tools are defined by the length of diameter ratio you define in the LD field. Tapered wall step down sets the step down value to be used on tapered walls. And finally, use long tool values when the length to diameter ratio is greater than LD defines long tools using the length to diameter ratio you enter. You can now select the Rest Mill page. This page allows you to add Rest Mill toolpaths to the FBM Mill operation and to define their cutting passes. Mastercam creates the Rest Mill toolpaths after roughing operations and before finish passes. Rest Mill toolpaths are roughing operations that remove remaining stock based on a previous roughing toolpath or based on a roughing tool. Make the following changes as shown. The rest of your parameters should appear as shown. You can now select the floor finish page. This page allows you to add finish passes for the floor of each pocket feature in the FBM Mill operations. When this option is deselected, Mastercam creates only roughing and rest mill operations for pocket floors. That being said, we will disable floor finish because we didn't leave any stock on the floors. Next, select wall finish. With this option enabled, Mastercam will add finish passes for the walls of each pocket feature included in the FBM Mill operation. When this operation is deselected, Mastercam creates only roughing and rest mill operations for pocket walls. Make sure this option is enabled and set the finish passes to number with a value of 1. Also, set the depth cuts to number of cuts and input a value of 1. Finally, change the LD value to 3. The rest of your parameters should appear as shown. I will now explain a few of these parameters. Finish passes defines how many passes the tool will step down the part. Number lets you enter the number of wall finish passes. Depth cuts defines how Mastercam divides the total depth cuts for the FBM generated toolpath type into multiple depth cuts. Number of cuts enters the number of passes you want Mastercam to create in the FBM generated toolpath. And finally, entry-exit moves will define the tool moves Mastercam uses when entering or exiting the finish cut pass. You can now select the linking parameters page. The linking parameters page allows you to set the clearance and the retract heights for the 2D toolpaths. Change the retract value to 0.5 as shown. Next, select the Features page. This page manages the list of features that FBM Mill detects in the solid model. The features and machining information in the list are based on the parameters you set in the FBM Mill pages. Select the Detect Feature button. You should see a gray flag next to the outside profile. This is because the feature is suppressed. It is suppressed because on the setup page, we did not enable the options to machine the outside of the part due to the fact that the stock was made to the size of the part. You can now select the OK button to generate the toolpath. When the Enter New NC Name dialog box appears, select the OK button. I will now show you how to check your part using Backplot and Verify. First, make sure that all the toolpaths are selected. To do this, click the Select All Operations icon shown here. You will now notice that all of the operations have a green check mark. This indicates that they have been selected. From here, select the Backplot icon. Backplotting shows the path the tools take to cut the part. This display lets you spot errors in the program before you machine the part. As you backplot toolpaths, Mastercam displays additional information such as the X, Y, and Z coordinates, the path length, the minimum and maximum coordinates, and the cycle time. It also shows any collisions between the workpiece and the tool. From here, select the Backplot tab and ensure that the following settings are enabled: All Operations, Follow, and Leads. You can now select the Home tab. From here, ensure that Tool, Workpiece, and Workpiece are enabled. Disable fixtures if necessary. You can now press the Play Simulation button to run your backplot. You can now press the Play Simulation button to run your backplot. Your toolpath will appear as shown. To view your part more clearly, select the Isometric View and Fit icon. We will now simulate the toolpath in Verify. From the Mastercam backplot home, select the Verify button. Disable Workpiece. Ensure that the following are enabled: Tool, Stock, and Workpiece. Verify mode shows the path the tools take to cut the part with material removal. This display lets you spot errors in the program before you machine the part. As you verify toolpaths, Mastercam displays additional information such as the X, Y, and Z coordinates, the path length, the minimum and maximum coordinates, and the cycle time. It also shows any collisions between the workpiece and the tool. You can now select the Play Simulation button to run Verify. Your part will appear as shown. You can now exit Verify.